A few days back, we talked about the biggest NHL trade rumors, but since then we've seen some even bigger ones coming out regarding the New York Rangers, the Philadelphia Flyers, a potential big trade between the Jets and the Hurricanes, as well as big moves with the Oilers, as well as the Leafs coming up soon. But we're going to be breaking it all down right here, right now, so watch till the end for every single trade rumor and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content just like this all throughout the offseason and all throughout the rest of the playoffs. You won't want to miss it. Now let's first talk about the New York Rangers and their coaching search here, and what's really gotten interesting over the past 2 days is that it seems like the Rangers have completely dialed in on one specific candidate, and that is Peter Laviolette, who was just recently fired from the Washington Capitals position, but it seems like he is the ultimate frontrunner for the New York Rangers job. Is Laviolette the frontrunner for the Rangers? According to Elliotte Friedman, it sounds more and more like Peter Laviolette could be named the next head coach for the New York Rangers. An announcement could come as early as next week. And before the start of the Stanley Cup final, a lot of people are beginning to lean Laviolette. And Friedman said, if it is Laviolette, we are going to find out next week. That's where I sit with the Rangers coaching job. And we've seen a ton of other sources talking about Laviolette, talking about him being the guy for the New York Rangers. We'll see when it is ultimately announced, but it is the worst kept secret in the NHL right now. Laviolette will be the next head coach for the New York Rangers, and they'll go from Gallant to Laviolette in one offseason. Now, of course, Laviolette has won a cup in his time as a head coach, also 2 different Stanley Cup finals, last time going with the Preds in 2017, but since really that 2017 Cup final, it's just been a mix of decency and mediocrity and not really much aspiration. You saw the Washington Capitals this year with Peter Laviolette behind the bench. They missed the playoffs for the first time in a long time. I think since the first time since 2014, I'm pretty sure. And Laviolette, I think, had a lot of blame for that. Now, the Caps roster also wasn't perfect by any means, but there was still a lot of injuries that Laviolette had to deal with and had to go against with his team. And for the Rangers, it's a unique position. Of course, they've already gotten rid of Gallant. I thought they were going to go after an experienced guy. We saw they were going to go after an experienced guy. They weren't going to make another David Quinn type hire. Laviolette seems to be the guy now. Now, personally for me, Laviolette would be one of the last options I would pick for the Rangers. He has a pretty big history, especially over these past 2 years, of just not playing youth in the right positions. And for me, that's the exact opposite direction I want the Rangers to go in. You could still have an experienced coach that can work with younger players. I mean, Bruce Boudreau is right there. But they go for Peter Laviolette, who, again, has had success in spurts. But, again, his last time with the Washington Capitals was just absolutely horrible. I think it could still be interesting, but I definitely don't think players like Lafreniere, Kakko, Hedel, even players like Keandre Miller will be on a good side with Laviolette. It's just not really all that likely. And again, it kind of points to more and more of this Rangers team, how they just accelerated that rebuild into even too much acceleration. Now they have a coach who I don't think is going to get along with the younger players whatsoever, which will work for the older guys, but for a lot of that team, it's going to create some havoc. And I just gotta say, if Lafreniere couldn't get going with Gerard Gallant, he's not gonna get going with Peter Laviolette. If I'm Lafreniere, I request a trade yesterday. It's just that bad. Going on to our next story here involving the Carolina Hurricanes and a potential huge trade with the Winnipeg Jets here, and this one is absolutely fascinating. Ken Wiebe of Sportsnet wonders if the Carolina Hurricanes and Winnipeg Jets could make for logical trade partners. There is speculation that the Jets might look to shake up their core four, by moving one of goaltender Connor Hellebuyck or forwards Mark Scheifele, Pierre-Luc Dubois, or Blake Wheeler. Then Wiebe writes the Hurricanes will be looking to get more clarity from foundational pillars like Sebastian Aho, but they probably will also take a couple of big swings when it comes to loading up for a Stanley Cup run next season. That's where one of, or potentially both of, Hellebuyck and Scheifele could factor in. Meanwhile, the Hurricanes are looking for a top-level star and could be open to trading Teuvo Teravainen, who will need a new contract next summer. Now, what's also interesting about this is that we had rumors just a few days ago from Matt Larkin of Daily Faceoff. He recently took a look at the offseason plans for the Carolina Hurricanes and was of the opinion the team needed to trade for a superstar no matter the cost. A team that has been known to struggle for goal scoring, and injuries were a key factor in their being swept by the Florida Panthers. The team lacked a 40-goal score, a 90-point score, or a player among the top 15 in scoring over the past 5 seasons, and that needs to change. So we've already seen some rumors circulating about the Hurricanes making some big moves moves, seems like the Jets could be a pretty good connection. Obviously, different conferences does help too. But among those names who could potentially be dealt, there was Blake Wheeler, who will be on 1 year left after this offseason at 36 years old. You, of course, got Mark Scheifele, who is also going to be a UFA in the 2024-2025 offseason. He's making $6 million now. You, of course, got the Pierre-Luc Dubois situation, which we've been talking about for a long time. He's an RFA this year. We'll see what potential deal gets done there, but it feels like the Hurricanes could be in a pretty unique spot to make a trade. I don't think Connor Hellebuck's going to be the guy they go after. It would definitely be one of the bigger time forwards. Maybe they would love a player like Kyle Connor, but I definitely don't think the Jets would want to trade a player like that. I don't think they'd want to go after a player like Blake Wheeler either, because again, goal scoring is not exactly his forte. Mark Scheifele, he had a fantastic goal scoring season. Maybe that's the type of player we see them go after. And again, at $6.1 million, pretty cheap cap hit for a player being brought in. And that's the type of deal I could definitely see the Canes doing. And in terms of the no move clause on Mark Scheifele, he submits a 10-team no trade list. I don't expect a team like Carolina to be a part of that list whatsoever. I think Scheifele would definitely like to go to a team like Carolina with how much they've still been proven as a playoff team over these past few years at the very least. And with his goal scoring, he could really change things there if he were to stay healthy. And then we look at the Canes, and of course, the name that was mentioned was Teuvo Teravainen. You look at him, and he has a modified no trade clause as well, with a 10-team no trade list. He makes $5.4 million for the next year, and then will be a UFA afterwards. Same thing with Sebastian Aho, and the only player they really have signed long-term in that forward group, the only player they have signed until the 2025 season is Jesperi Kotkaniemi. There could be a lot of changes with this Canes forward group, and I would expect potentially a player like Mark Scheifele to be a part of that, even if it maybe is even in free agency. But Teravainen would be interesting. He has a 10-team no trade list. I would imagine the Winnipeg Jets are probably a part of that, so that might prevent a deal from actually happening, at least with Teravainen going the other way to Winnipeg. Carolina has a lot of prospects they can move if they wanted to. Then we got some more huge trade rumors here coming up with the Philadelphia Flyers specifically, and potentially their willingness to trade their star goaltender Carter Hart, who of course had a huge bounce back season this year, got back to a good level even if Philadelphia was still not at a playoff caliber team. You can see Flyers may entertain Carter Hart trade offers. Philadelphia Flyers general manager Daniel Briere told Philadelphia Sports Radio 94.1 that he's open to trading goaltender Carter Hart. He noted, if there's teams calling, we have to listen. That's my job as a GM. I have to listen. I have to do what is best for the team and the organization. In saying that, I expect Carter Hart to be our goalie for many years to come. And it does make sense that he obviously be willing to listen for anything. I mean, Carter Hart, I don't think is completely untouchable. He's still fantastic when he's at the top of his game, but he's also a player that if the Philadelphia Flyers are going to go for maybe a rebuild, he is still on the younger side, but you don't know if he'll stick around for that per se. And we'll see what Carter Hart his interest is in Philadelphia in the future, because I think that's an underrated part of things. Philadelphia might not want to trade him, but Carter Hart might not be loving what Philadelphia is building, and over the last few years, can you really blame him? And when you look at it, it's really fascinating because Carter Hart has 1 year left on his deal at that $3.9 million cap hit, but then he will be an RFA, so he's not going to go completely into free agency. He's not going to have total control over everything, but I would expect him to have a decent amount of control. I mean, we've been talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois and how he's almost guaranteed to go somewhere else, even though he's an RFA. Carter Hart could end up being the same situation. If maybe next year we don't see any progress at all with Philadelphia, which I would expect would likely be the case, Carter Hart could end up going somewhere else. I mean, he's still extremely young at 24 years old, but maybe he's thinking he might not have those prime years. He doesn't want to spend those prime years in Philadelphia, and he might want to go somewhere else as soon as possible, maybe to maximize his free agency cost. We'll end up seeing what happens there. But again, Carter Hart isn't completely locked in, and he only has a contract for this next year. So it'll be interesting to see maybe even next offseason if we could see some movement in the Carter Hart direction. Now we got also some fascinating trading rumors here regarding the Elias Lindholm and the Calgary Flames and potentially a trade in the future. We talked about this a few weeks ago with Frank Seravalli's trade bait board for the offseason, players that might be moved. Elias Lindholm was a part of that, and it says this: will the Flames be forced into trading Elias Lindholm? New general manager Craig Conroy is going to work hard to keep Lindholm happy as a member of the Calgary Flames, but what if he says he's not interested in staying? With one more season in his contract, the Flames can't exactly let him walk into free agency. With that in mind, Julian McKenzie of The Athletic was asked about what the Flames might do if Lindholm isn't interested in signing a contract extension, and who might be open to trading for the forward. Could the Flames fetch a first-round pick in return? McKenzie said it would be a surprise if the Flames could net a pick in the top 10, as teams in that range likely prefer prefer younger players who will grow with a younger core over somebody like Lindholm, who would be an immediate fix, but whose production would decline in the coming years. That said, if there is an extension in place with any trade, Lindholm is still only 28 years old, and it's really interesting. And then Julian McKenzie goes on to say this: I think the Flames would be more likely to get that first rounder from any contending team below them. Think of teams like Colorado, Toronto, and Minnesota as examples. McKenzie believes that one team that might be open to making a splash would be the Columbus Blue Jackets, and a fellow contributor, Aaron Porcelain, the Blue Jackets wouldn't trade the third overall pick straight up for Lindholm, but if there was a contract extension in place and with a 2023 second round pick, it might be something the Blue Jackets would consider. And obviously for the Blue Jackets, their second round pick would be almost first round pick caliber, and there likely would be still some more on top of that. But we've been talking about the Blue Jackets, their center situation, for it seems like years now. They've always had just a horrible, no good center situation, and Lindholm would definitely make it a lot more formidable, especially with still players like Ken Johnson coming up as well. But those names are definitely interesting: Colorado, Toronto, Minnesota, and potentially the Columbus Blue Jackets as the front runners for Lindholm. I want to know down below, what do you guys think? Do you guys think Lindholm will actually be dealt? It seems like a situation that, regarding Calgary's cap space, again, Lindholm might just be a luxury they won't be able to afford. Also, an interesting note on the Calgary Flames as well. According to the Flames' new GM, the team is in a bit of a sticky situation with a three-headed goalie monster, as all of Jacob Markstrom, Dustin Wolf, and Daniel Vladar want and need playing time. Conroy spoke with Frank Seravalli about the issue and hinted that the team will move Wolf up and down to get him as much playing time as possible while shopping one of their other two net miners. Now, personally, if you can get rid of Jacob Markstrom and his cap hit, that would be absolutely glorious. But I do think that Dustin Wolf, next year is the time. Next year is the year he needs to take that next step, and he will be able to take that next step. It's just a matter of if he'll have the space and the time to. One of Vladar or Markstrom should be gone. That should be a necessity. Also, interesting notes on the Edmonton Oilers, pointing out a couple of moves the Oilers tried to make before the last season's NHL trade deadline. Daniel Nugent-Bowman of The Athletic believes the team could revisit a few things, even if they are long shots to happen over the summer. Among them are the additions of Erik Karlsson and Jonathan Toews. The report of Edmonton's interest in Karlsson were everywhere, and he writes, "It's time to do that again over the next few weeks." He notes that the Oilers would have to move a contract, get San Jose to retain salary, and take another back. He then notes, "It might not even be feasible, but can you imagine a top four Karlsson, Nurse to go along with Bouchard and Matthias Ekholm? That third pair could be a combination of cheap additions like Niemelin, Desjardins, Broberg, and a Ryan Murray type veteran." Nugent and Bowman also notes the Oilers had discussions internally about Toews, discussions which stopped when he was shut down for the season due to injury. He writes the team should check in again to see how he's feeling. There are some major red flags here, so signing Toews 35 isn't a must. Anything more than 1 year and $2 million should be a non-starter. Then we got some interesting notes here on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Is Auston Matthews being targeted by other teams? ESPN.com's Greg Wyshynski recently speculated there are NHL teams that could be trying to recreate the big win for Florida that was last year's blockbuster trade for Matthew Tkachuk. They'll be going after Auston Matthews in an attempt to be the next Panthers. Before Kyle Dubas departed the Leafs, he did reference that trade specifically, so it's no surprise to hear other GMs might be thinking about it too. Wyshynski believes Matthews wants to stay in Toronto, and the Maple Leafs have told him the intention is to keep him, but things are constantly shifting with Dubas' firing. The NHL is a copycat league. Physical team plays for the cup, gotta muscle up. Fast team plays for the cup, gotta get some burners in the lineup. Panthers play for the cup, gotta make our Matthew Tkachuk trade. So interesting notes there. We'll see if Matthews is actually dealt. I don't quite see it, but again, who thought that we were going to see the Matthew Tkachuk, Jonathan Huberdeau trade last year? So anything is possible. I mean, what did I say? Auston Matthews of the Dallas Stars? Yes, 110% happening. You heard it here first, folks. But thank you guys so much for watching the Rumor Roundup today. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for more trade rumor content just like this. Comment down below all your thoughts on the trade rumors. What do you think about the potential Hurricanes-Jets trade? What do you think about the Matthews rumors? What do you think about the Hart rumors? What do you think about everything we talked about here today? Let us know all your thoughts down below. And of course, which players do you guys think will be traded? Of course, share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. Get all the trade rumors out there and click on this card for all my trade rumor content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.